Seeing the group's indecisiveness and feeling that staying still would probably bring harm, Slissa made a decision. Let's just keep heading down. We're too busy fighting a specter to also take care of whatever the hell left those scratch marks. Before anyone could reply, she was already on her way down. Ryuk and Ryuk looked at each other for a spare moment, before hastily following her further down the tunnels. Swallowing their fear, and replacing it with orcish confidence and prayers to the ancestors, the Resilience Party continued their way down the caves. They weren't sure what they were facing, making their quest that much more unnerving. The tunnels quivered from time to time, threatening the orcs with collapse and certain death, but all they could do was go further down into the spider's den. Once the descent was over, they walked into a large, cavernous room illuminated by a bright beam at its center, weapons drawn. It seemed to be pooling energy from above, channeling it down and feeding it right into the specter's mouth. As the monstrosity absorbed the vital force of the land, the orcs looked at each other in slight disbelief, equally horrified and intrigued by the grim process. Ryuk shouted at the creature, "The orcs are here, you dusty fart! We'll fucking murder you!" The specter continued its absorption process for a few seconds before turning around and etching a spine-chilling, ghastly grin, as if it was amused by Ryuk's insult. Its corporeality seemed to dissipate as it let out a horrifying laugh. Legs slightly shaking, Ryuk blurted out a question. "Where is it?" The orcs invaded the room slowly, nervously inspecting their surroundings for clues of where their assailant could have gone. His dagger and short sword at the ready, Ryuk ventured farther than his comrades, setting himself up for an ambush. As he observed the gigantic draining ray up close, almost hypnotized by its vibrant colors, another burst of laughter erupted as the specter materialized behind the old man. The scream of pain was so profound and heart-wrenching that it was impossible to ignore. Ryuk's back received a cut so deep that it was a miracle his body was still holding together, instead of falling apart into slices of muscle and blood. Slissa was the only one fast enough to react, throwing a small knife in the direction of the specter before it could vanish again. Upon impact, the hit sounded like the echo of shattering glass. The specter moaned in pain, with a hateful expression on its face, hatred directed fully towards Slissa. She froze in terror for a moment under the gaze of the monster facing her, before quickly snapping out of the fear and shouting an order to her comrade. "Stay close, Ryuk! It'll be better if we face it together!" The sorcerer heeded the command and hastily joined Slissa's side. Back to back, they slowly advanced through the room, trying to reach their wounded comrade. "I'll be fine. Focus on the monster," whispered Ryuk, agonizing. A terrifying ethereal laughter flooded the cavern, sending a chill down the spines of the orcish party, blocking the fear trying to paralyze his body. Ryuk began hatching a plan as he whispered to Slissa. "We have to force it out of ethereality. The knife you threw at it wounded it. We have to get this sucker to appear again so we can finish it." "And just how do you propose to do that, Ryuk?" Donning a courageous smile, Ryuk briefly replied, "Watch." He quickly approached his wounded comrade and feigned helping him. Kneeling at his side, he said, "I'll heal you very soon. You just hold on, all right? Gotta make it think I'm distracted." As he uttered those words, he prepared a fire spell in his hand, covering his trickery by hunching his body. From the ethereal realm, the specter watched closely, cackling at Ryuk's perceived distraction. A few seconds passed without any action. "Ryuk, what the hell are you doing?" shouted Slissa. Just when she finished her question, the crackling, ethereal sound of the specter's materialization flooded the room. Upon hearing the dreary noise, Ryuk immediately turned around and fired a blast of scorching magic, not even taking a second to aim his power. The blast went right through the specter's chest, who had materialized beyond Ryuk to take advantage of his distraction, helping Yak. Its very essence seemed to melt as the sorcerer maintained the spell's strength for as long as he possibly could. After a few seconds of powerful energy, though, Ryuk's magic was completely drained and the column of fire dissipated. With a hole in its chest and its essence barely holding on, the specter let out a broken laugh, as if getting just one more victim was worth a lethal injury. It raised its spectral arm high and manifested its dark claws, trembling from the sweltering damage, but still ready to take out the young orc. Ryuk closed his eyes, knowing he had done his part in the fight. At that moment, the four-feathered bird the party saved surged from Ryuk's robes, throwing off the specter by flashing it with its vigorous colors. Confused, the monstrosity retreated a few feet, hissing. As it tried to dissipate into the ethereal realm, Slissa hastily sprinted towards it and unleashed a flurry of slashes that were more than enough to extinguish the vitality left in the monstrosity. What remained of the specter after Ryuk's spell disintegrated and collapsed into small crystalline shards of darkness. Slightly surprised he hadn't joined the ancestors yet, Ryuk thanked his savior. "Hey, that was pretty good, birdie. Thanks." The spirit bird cooed softly before flying back into Ryuk's large sorcerer robes, tickling and throwing him to the ground in the process. Yak grunted frustratedly, beckoning Ryuk to heal him. The sorcerer snapped out of his idleness and ran over to his wounded companion, immediately beginning to cast his spell of vitalization. "I don't know how much I have left in me, but this should be enough to stave off death, friend." As he laid his hands on Yak's body, the old man stopped bleeding out and let out a sigh of relief. "Looks like I'll live another day." Slissa helped him up and replied, "I'm happy you will. You took a terrible hit today. You should be proud. Maybe even celebrate a little? No time for that, kid. We have stuff to report. The queen must not be kept waiting."